6:30? I'm not saying you're going right now, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
just 1 minute, because we're not quite live on YouTube.
No, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you're going first at 6:30.
And we don't have a quorum yet.
Do we need a quorum?
Oh, no. Maybe not.
So Jeff, where would we go? Where do
We
we go first? And this is just the first email you sent, and I hate to you sent an email workshop number 1. So that's that one or number 2? Do you even know? And I'm sorry to do this to you, but.
Oh, sorry, Chief. I promoted Chief Guevara, but he's actually not on quite yet. So I can, well, anyway, I'll promote people as it's their turn.
So the 2 documents are going to be.
Let me see.
That one.
Which one is that?
The one with the fire truck on the front. And then I sent you all of the individual department requests.
Right.
If you want to look at that, I think that's something they can talk about. And then I have tabs. Excuse me. I have on the front the full budget, and then I have it by departments after that, so that we can.
But all I'm saying is we got it in 3 emails, so I'm just wondering, is it like number 1?
Okay,
then we go to number 2, then we go to number 3?
Number 1 is the fire truck. It's the second PDF in the number 1 email.
Yeah, that I see. But like for each department.
And then each department, if they're labeled by department name, so as they come up, they can open those individually. And then there's also the capital request for some of the departments as well, if we want to talk about that tonight.
Well, we'll see how the timing goes.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to make any decisions about the capital request.
No, I don't think so either.
So I'm gonna make Kendra, because Kendra, you're on a lot later. I'm gonna make you an attendee, and I'm gonna promote department chairs as it's their time to come forward. So I'm gonna make you. Does that make sense?
Fine.
Okay.
So when I look for Liz, we're looking at fire department one or no? Fire, the first one? Oh, there's the police department budget. All right. Village clerk budget. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Just so you're not used to usually getting those big books. But
Yeah, I know. It makes it a little funky to do it like this, actually.
But it is a waste of paper with those.
Oh,
big.
yeah, it really is. And then binders and all that stuff.
Oh, I know, but I like to be spoiled.
All right, so we got Mike and Larry and Donna. But it's only 6:32, so I guess we'll.
Mike, I saw that Washington Post article over the weekend, sent it to myself. You beat me to it. I was going to send it around. I just never got around to it. It's really interesting. You'll have to explain bendable concrete to me someday, but we should do that over a drink, I think.
Yeah, maybe after 3, we'll both understand it. But we had this workshop last week, Friday, and it was very productive. We had all the engineers involved and interesting stuff. I can fill you guys in.
Hastings got a shout out in that article, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I thought Christy might take that harshly.
She's so competitive.
I don't like it when they give any good cred on any of these newspapers. Should always be jobs.
You're like the border of Hastings, aren't? Is that where you live? Like almost on the border there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I can tell when our streets are plowed better. Because it's right there.
So are we all here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we're ready. And according to the list, the clerk is up. Is there anything you want to add first, Jeff?
Yeah, let's just- I want to take a quick discussion of how that package is set up, I guess.
Okay,
Do you want to explain for the public what this is if anybody's watching?
Yeah, that's fine. Most of the people that were watching when I looked a minute ago were people who know, but you're correct. We should. This is the annual workshop with the Board of Trustees and the department heads to present their requests for the 2021-2022 budget.
so
And-
just to be clear, nothing's going to be decided tonight. This is just the chairs, heads of these departments submitting their requests, right, Jeff?
Correct. It's almost in a way a wish list that can be adjusted. Nothing's official until the end of second meeting in April when you adopt the final, final budget. I'll present a tentative budget at the first board meeting in April. And then even after that point, changes could still be made right up until the final budget is adopted.
And there is no public comment tonight because that was a point
Correct.
of
Correct.
clarification that was necessary.
Yep. This
I would just add one thing is kind of, I guess if we don't have a budget committee anymore, maybe I'm still the budget nerd. That this is going to be a tougher year for us in terms of revenues, we believe. And it's something that we all have to be mindful of as we're looking at and thinking through what are our priorities as a village.
Correct.
And for those of you who don't know, Jeff is watching. Jeff is the village treasurer. Frank is what's your title, Frank? The assistant village treasurer?
Deputy treasurer.
Deputy treasurer. And Richard is the interim village administrator. Give us a wave, Richard. Okay. Jeff, this is really your show, so go
Okay,
ahead.
so what I'm going to do first is just share my screen. Excuse me. Apparently my voice is a little shaky tonight.
That's what you said last year.
It's a ploy. Okay, so here, this is kind of a summary of the this budget as of tonight's meeting. Basically, we're looking at a general fund with $20 million of appropriations. Estimated revenues right now of just under 5 million. To balance the budget, we have $1,090,090 in appropriated fund balance. That's the savings account, basically. And we're requesting $15,155,392 on the tax levy total between general fund and library. Which is this proposed budget, excuse me, is a levy increase of 743,000, 5.16%. The tax rate per thousand does increase about 3.9% to $7.18 per thousand. I don't have the final assessment. Most likely, this number will decrease at least somewhat based on people, fighting their tax assessment with the assessor's office, which would take this potentially increase that tax rate additionally. Okay. That's kind of basically the basic information. I don't know if there's any questions at this point or not.
Am I muted or am I on? I'm on. Okay. I just have a question. You said if the levy, if the tax if we lose the revenue, if we lose assessment value on certain properties, we obviously then have to increase our tax rate. Will that put us over the cap, or will we have to?
No, the cap relates to the levy itself. not the tax rate per thousand.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Actually, there is one other, there are a couple other things I did want to quickly bring up. And Larry alluded to this with the potential revenue questions that we have. So if we look at the general fund revenue, I gotta move this so that I can see. As you can see, the levy is a 5.2% increase, but there's a couple of areas that we decreased revenue, relatively speaking, significantly. Like the waterfront permits is down close to 50%, from 320,000 last year. I have 170,000 in there right now. You know, I'm not sure yet when permit sales will actually take off again, when people need to get back down into the city. And, you know, I'm concerned about the amount of revenue from the permits, both with the local permits and with the non-resident. And then on-street meters, I've also reduced that about 80,000. That may be, as you can see, that's as of when I put this budget together Friday. That's the amount of collections we've had on the parking meters so far this year. Of course, there was a time there where the meters were not where you had allowed people to park without paying for the meters. So maybe that number, you know, that number may increase depending on a number of things, including people coming back into the village.
Jeff, when you say that that's how much we've gotten this year, you mean this fiscal year? So,
Correct, this fiscal year. Yep.
which is what, June
to now.
to now. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And then above that for waterfront, that's what that was?
So if you remember, we
Yeah, 'cause
changed.
you changed it and it would have
Yeah.
just happened. A bunch
Yep.
of them would have just
There
happened.
were a few stragglers that came in.
Yeah.
You know, and we sold some permits, and then we sold some to Ardsley residents, it looks like, so far this year. But there really won't be much in the way in this current fiscal budget. I don't foresee these numbers changing a whole lot between now and May 31. Unless something happens and the city opens up and people start going back into offices down there. I'm sorry, my dog. He's stuck under the chair. Come on. He can't see. He's getting to be an old man.
Free the puppy, free the dog.
But you know, these two are pretty significant reductions, and they're actually driving you know, a good part of the increase on the levy. You know, it's the expense side as well, but you know, we lose a pretty significant amount of revenue here, you know, and then interest earnings are going to be down. I'm not totally sure about hotels, so I've kept that kind of flat. Hotel taxes, sales taxes had been doing relatively well. The county sent me information about January, and it was down pretty significantly for January. All right, now let me.
One other comment very quickly, Jeff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the assessment, there's a lag in the assessment such that
Right.
the increase in home prices in Westchester, which affected us positively in terms of tax revenues, won't be reflected this year. Rather, it'll be reflected next year.
Right, it'll be a year or two in lag. The assessor's office uses historical data to, and you know, historical sales and data to update their assessment roll. At some point in the next year or two, they're also going to do a complete revaluation again, I believe, if I remember correctly. So that can affect things pretty significantly, as we saw the last time they did that revaluation. So that's kind of, what I wanted to talk about briefly here at the start. I guess we can start heading towards Liz, unless there's other questions. So in the packet that I sent to you, the one that's named, I don't see it here, Dobbs Ferry Departments PDF, which looks like this one. You gotta get about a quarter of the way down, because I put the complete budgets up front for general fund, sewer, and library. So we're gonna be in the section 2 budgets and village clerk's budget, which is page 37 of the PDF. And Liz, take it away.
Sorry, Jeff, what was the name again? The title of the,
D_Dobbs Ferry Departments.
thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, this is my budget. It's one page. It's the same as last year. There's no increases being requested. There's not much to say, I guess. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Actually, one other thing I do want to mention, and Liz made a good point of saying there's no changes. We still haven't settled union contracts, so all of the salaries in this budget are from the 1920 budget. And once the union contracts are settled, then there'll be a retro pay to pay and catch people up. Okay. I have calculated an estimate of salaries for staff, and that's in the contingency line of this budget. Basically, Liz has zero changes to this budget from year over year.
Way to go, Liz.
Well, Liz, when we talk about maintenance contracts, that's what maintenance are we talking about?
That, Mayor, that is our basically for the village code, the company that does processes our local laws and updates our village code. So the reason why it's at that amount, and I don't really like to go lower, is it really, what we're charged is dependent upon how many local laws we adopt. For instance, if we rewrote the whole zoning code again, that would be a very major change to the code, and therefore cost a little bit more than just the simple, one-liner update. So.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Liz?
I could go lower on office supplies if you need, a little bit. That's it.
Thanks,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to go to the police department. And that starts on page 34 of the PDF. And if we can get Rick promoted.
Hi, everybody. Can you see me? How's everyone doing tonight?
Okay.
So we have a couple lines. Was there anyone in particular you wanted to start with first?
No, go ahead.
We have a couple different lines. You want me to?
Can I ask just to start then, since Liz started this way, are there any changes being asked, or is this the same as last year?
Can't hear you, Rick.
Chief, we can't hear you. You're not muted, so I'm not sure what's going on with your mic. Chief, are you speaking? We cannot hear you.
Hey, Rick, we can't hear you.
He's gonna log back in, so take a moment to reflect, please.
And a short answer to your question, Nicole, is it's not going to be exactly the same as last year. He's got a smaller request for equipment, for example, in the police department. A lot of the lines are going to be very similar to last year, but it's not going to be exactly the same as last year.
Can you just scroll up a drop, Jeff?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Can you just scroll up a drop so we can see the headers?
Oop, sorry.
Okay, Chief, you're on. Can you test your mic? We cannot hear you if you're speaking. In this case, you might want to call in instead by phone, and we'll try it that way.
So Jeff, just so because does it look like it's a 5% increase? Is that what I'm looking at in that column, variance to requested stage? Is that a 5% increase over last year?
On the police total,
Yeah.
scroll down. Yes, 5% increase from last year.
Okay.
And some of that has to do with staff members moving up on the their steps on the from the contract. And then, and then Rick can explain some of the other changes he's got.
Okay. So, Chief, to unmute yourself when you're calling in, you need, okay, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. All right, how do I sound right now?
Good.
All right, perfect. I don't know what's going on, why this wouldn't work properly, but appreciate your patience. Going back to Nicole's question, yeah, I kept the lines flat regarding the police line as the CBA has been expired. There is an increase in the maintenance contracts. There was a 5% increase by the, I guess, the host of our record management system, Central Square. They increased that by 5%. And I also added an increase for the Power DMS maintenance contract, which will kick in at the beginning of the fiscal year. And that was a $7,000 approximate increase for that. And the other line I worked on was, and that's really kind of coming out of the police reform, our training line has historically been about $6,000 for the year. I increased that to 10, and I was thinking I might talk with Jeff, because depending on where we go with the police reform and training, I might look to increase that a bit more. So I was just going to look for some guidance, just as we get closer to the deadline, what we might be thinking in regards to the training budgets portion, to make sure that we get all the officers the training that they do require. You know, again, as I'm looking towards, like, you know, purchases, like anything else, the police vehicles are have to be turned over, so you will see that I have that in the budget as well as the associated in-car dash camera that I would put in. But otherwise, everything else for that line is relatively is flat. I don't know if you have any specific questions you're looking for. Let's see if I can help you out with that.
On the police equipment line?
Yes.
Can you explain how it seems like we spent in 2019, 2,223, and then in 2020, actual was 66,287, but then the budget lines are much higher. How does that work?
Okay, I can answer that. I can help you answer that. We started adding capital equipment purchases back into this budget, probably starting around to the 2019-20 budget, with the tax cap restrictions that had been are still in place, and the fact that the assessed value was kind of flat and or decreasing within the village for a number of years, and limits to the increase in the levy itself, we ended up pulling a lot of all equipment out of the budget at one point. Now we're trying to start to add some of the stuff that was once in the budget back into the budget.
So my question is, does it still need to be 125,000 if we're not spending that?
He has, or Rick, you have outlined what you're requesting.
Correct. So we do have to replace another marked police car, and I have an approximate price to equip and package that. We have an unmarked that also needs to be retired. So that would be 2 vehicles. And then our in-car cameras for this new police car is going to require a new system to replace our dash cameras are also hitting end of life. And then as part of that total, I'm approximating what the cost would be for tasers, because again, tasers, I'm trying to cycle through what we have as they reach their end of life, so that we never really have to find ourselves where we have to buy a bulk amount of like some of this equipment. We do replace our ballistic vests, and I'm also looking at our AEDs. I'd like to replace and bring in 2 new ones, as our defibrillators are getting old as well. So that's kind of that rough total for this approaching year.
Jeff, can you share that page from the police workshop doc so we can see that?
Give me 1 second.
While he's looking, any of this stuff, do you ever look for grants for this stuff? I mean, for tasers and vests, are they available?
Yeah, the grants, there's grants available for the vests, so we do get money back on that. I have not come across anything on the taser as of at this moment, and the vehicles are all purchased off a state contract.
Rick, do you anticipate that with the police reform report that we're coming up with and suggestions and recommendations, do you think that will be affecting this budget at all?
It certainly can. Certainly on capital, there has been talk about body cameras which that would be an increase that I don't have that figured into this budget as when I was set up, but that would be certainly an expense. And you know, the training line that I'm based on some of the conversations that I've heard from other committees and that we've had, that seems to be a big topic. So just to prepare for that eventuality, you know, I did do at this point a slight increase in that training budget line, but I really won't know until we get into the fiscal year just to see how much money is required and what the training can cost. Some are free, as I said, some are not.
Trustee Nell, is this what you were asking to look at or no? Okay.
And so that police interceptor, that would be a hybrid. If the village preferred to go with regular gas, it would be a little bit cheaper than going with a hybrid. Although speaking to the company that has a county contract right now, there is a delay on hybrids. They don't normally keep them on the lot, so it kind of pushes back when you actually make the order. You know, they're telling me that it has to be manufactured by Ford in this case. So there's a little bit longer turnaround on the hybrids than on a gas SUV.
But that doesn't affect the car that we have. We can still use until that time, correct? I mean, there's no.
That's correct.
Breaking down. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Can you explain, Chief, the benefit to us as a village investing in hybrid police vehicles as the new vehicles?
I guess the benefit was the thought that there is some savings, as with the hybrid. We do a lot of, you know, some idling, certainly in a village, whether we're sitting at traffic lights or running radar or writing reports in the cars. So that will save some gas, you know, during the lifetime. There's also a little bit less wear and tear on the vehicle if it shuts down on the idle. Whether over the life of that vehicle, you're going to see a true savings. You could look for some reports to see if there's anything out there. But in talking with the village mechanic, one of the concerns with the hybrid is that once the warranty's off, we really, if we're looking to go to a hybrid fleet, then we really have to make a concerted effort that every 5 years we're moving that car and having it replaced. So telling me the costs once it's off warranty can be quite expensive, and it's also, there are things that then the village mechanic may not be able to take care of.
Is the resale value? Oh, sorry.
What's that?
I thought you were done. I apologize. Was the resale value higher when we, because I know most of the cars end up getting sold, right? When we take them out of the fleet?
Certainly, yes. If we can, there's certainly more value in the vehicle. You know, say trying to sell it at 5 years versus 8 years or 9. And as that mileage gets up there, yeah, you'll see a little bit more money on the resale.
So despite the fact that there's a bigger equipment line because of the cars, somewhere else it's offset by the sale of the used cars?
Correct, yes.
So just looking at the other difference with the hybrid is obviously better mileage means burning less gas, creating less pollution in the village. The city mileage, which is probably, I would guess, Chief, primarily what you're driving, what 27 mpg for the hybrid versus 18 for the regular Ford Explorer?
I'll see if I can get that information. With our cars, they're kind of running 16 hours a day, depending on the officers that are assigned. So I think that varies just depending on each driver. They're going to drive the vehicle differently. So I don't know that we're going to get a real good estimate, but I can see if I can come up with something in miles per gallon for city driving on a hybrid.
Well, according to Ford, the difference is about 9 miles per gallon better with the hybrid. But I don't know how their tests compare to your officers' day-to-day driving.
I would think it would vary greatly. I don't think that their numbers are going to be very similar to us. Dobbs is very hilly. And the driving conditions certainly are a lot different here than other jurisdictions. That becomes a question whether, if we want to go, I don't know that going to an entirely hybrid fleet would be the right way to go. But, I'm open to all ideas.
These other municipalities that are getting Teslas, they're not getting any special deals that we don't know about, are they?
Talking with my counterpart, no, they have applied for a grant, but there are a lot of operational issues with the Tesla, the least of which is, they have glass roofs, which I can't figure out how to put a light rack on the top of that, as well as the partition between the front and back. So there's a lot of logistical issues that have to be worked out that I don't know. Certainly not for a full-time marked fleet right now. Hastings is just going to use it for their detective division, but not for patrol.
Larry, I have seen sustainability emails that's saying that electric vehicles will get, some kind of a discount or a grant. I don't know if you've seen that in any of those sustainability emails. You're muted.
Hybrid grants are available in New York State that can, run, it depends on the cost of the vehicle, for individuals anywhere between $3,500 and maybe as high as $4,500. I don't know how the state and federal grants would operate for a municipality, however.
Well, you know what? I'll look at my emails again and I'll forward it to Richard. But there are some meetings set up where they can inform municipalities about what grants may be available. I'm not sure it's for the hybrids, but I'll take a look at it and forward it.
There are individual grants for hybrids that are ongoing now. I just don't know if they apply to municipalities.
Right. Anything else for the chief?
I don't have anything else on this line, unless you do.
Nope. And basically, it looks like the bulk of the rest of your lines, Rick, are very unchanged from
Correct. Yes.
prior years.
Yeah, everything else is flat as well. I've kept them flat over the last 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are completely flat.
All right, unless there's any questions, we can move on to building department.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Don't think Ed has joined yet. We might be ahead of schedule.
I am here.
Oh, you are? You're a panelist? You snuck in? Okay, there you are.
All good?
Yep, good to go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, my budget has stayed flat in materials again this year, materials and contracts. We saw a increase in planning board, zoning board, and architectural review board because the newspaper increased their fees and their budget lines are just thrown in with building. So in the personal services, I'm asking for 2 increases. besides the regular contractual steps. One is a raise in grade for John Stone. We hired him at an 11, which is very low for an assistant building inspector. And he's doing pretty much the same job as Dan, who is a 15. And I am requesting to raise John to a 14. And because he's been doing a great job, and his peers are, getting a whole lot more money. And for example, the assistant in Hastings recently just left them there to go to Scarsdale for a huge amount more. So I'd like to encourage him to stay with us and give him more of what he deserves. So that increase in grade from an 11 to a 14 would cost us $11,206. The other increase I'm asking for is in our overtime line. We have had for years a $3,000 overtime line, and we're just getting so busy that we haven't, we just need more. And so that would not be something I would just definitely use. It'd be something for an as needed basis. So I propose to increase that 3,000 overtime to 20. So an increase of 17,000 as needed, if needed. So so far since I've been back there hasn't been any need for overtime, but it's winter time, and we don't know what's going to happen in the summer. So with those two increases, I believe I'm at a 3.9% increase from last year on the salaries on the whole, my whole budget. And frankly, if we were to raise the estimated revenue for the building department, I could be at zero. Where estimated revenue was underestimated by at least 2/3 last year, right, Jeff? I think our budget line was like 480, and building department brought in over $1.5 million. So we could keep that for.
And when you say last year, you mean like from June until today?
I'm saying on the year, 2020.
Oh, okay.
Pretty
Okay.
much works
Calendar
out.
year. That's fine. Yeah.
Calendar year. So it pretty much works out the same. It's a couple $1,000 difference if we change it from, from calendar year to budget year. But the budget year hasn't ended yet for.
I know that's why I was asking. Like, was there like more money coming onto that number, or that was a 12-month number?
It's always coming in. So if we look at, I ran some reports this morning, and if we looked at, January 1 through March 1 of 20, we had revenue of $232,824. If we look at the same period of 21, we have revenue of $224,637. So it's pretty close to right on line. If I extrapolated that out, it's $1.4 million this year if it stays the same. But it fluctuates up and down. We get more in the summer than we do in the winter. But still, even if I just take this low first 2 months of the year and extrapolate it out, it's $1.4 million. So we're pretty much right on the same as last year. To be, bring in a whole 3 times what we cost.
Just so I understand it, is that like revenue that you generated, or it's actually been collected? It was actually collected by the village in calendar year 2020.
Collected.
Okay.
Yeah, we get the checks as we give out the permits. And
I didn't know if it was all permits or if some of it was from the code enforcement that goes through the courts or something else.
it didn't include any court fees, any
Okay.
fees or anything in that. That's all permits and fees.
That's great.
Any questions?
All the work with getting onto, what is it called? Not city mode, city.
City Squared, the online portion of Municity.
Yeah, Municity is what I was thinking of. Are you still working on the scanning, and is that all still in here, or is that wrapped up in your?
We have paid for the initial cost of City Square that came out of general fund. That was in there 2 years ago. Our maintenance fees are in here under 362465. So that's, costs us like somewhere around 16,000 a year, but that's in our budget, hasn't changed from last year. Our phones, office supplies, educational, and books, and rental of our scanner, our large print format scanner and printer. All those items are in page 2, and they haven't changed in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so we're keeping, up to date with the scanning. All the plans for all the board meetings are getting scanned and getting posted on the website, and are all linked to the permits for historical, review.
Are there going to be things are we moving to a place where people start submitting digitally, and so we can save time on scanning and possibly not have as much need for overtime, or like anything
Well,
that is?
The overtime that I'm talking about is inspectors in the field, not in the office. That's just staying constant. And we do have a good portion of the applicants are uploading digitally. So we scan for those who can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then we still always have to, the technology hasn't given us a way yet to stamp and sign. Our permits, we have an electronic signature so that we don't have to print them out and sign them and scan them back in. But the plans, as we put our seal on them and sign the approved plans, we still have to scan those in, even though, the architect may have given us the plan electronically, but once we have to record that approved one. Yeah, I got to talk to the IT people about that, but, we're working on it. The other things, they can upload their insurances, their initial plans, the applications, everything they need, they can upload, or they email them to us and we just drag and drop into our software. So there's not a whole lot of time being spent on current scanning. We're doing a lot of historical scanning still.
Okay, any other questions? Good, thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Good night.
All right, next is fire department.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, being I have like 35 days left in my term, it's going to be Billy Osborne budget, so I'm going to let him present it. So how about it?
All right. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey, welcome, Billy.
All right. So this year pretty much stayed the same as last year. You guys could see. Personnel services were at 11.5. The mechanic overtime, we gave him an increase to 7,000 from 5,000 from last year. He took on a big responsibility with us. He went to class in South Carolina to maintain our fleet. We have all Pierce engines and trucks now, and it's saving a lot of money, his overtime. The company that we used was over $150 an hour and an hour away, and they kept the truck for a minimum of a week. What our mechanic's doing is at the end of every shift, when he goes home, our rigs are in service. So if God forbid we have a fire where we need it, we can go to the garage and get it. It's always in service, which is a giant plus to have. Our equipment, you'll see in there, new pager system for 20,000. The county's updating all the radio bands countywide. It's all the radios in the Chiefs cars, the trucks, everything. The pagers that we have now don't support the band, so we're gonna have to buy. They're about like $350, $400 a piece, times the amount of members comes to about 20,000. A new alert radio for headquarters that basically transmits the alarms to anybody that's here. That's 1,000. And also a lift for the DPW garage. Like I just said, the mechanic's gonna start working on all that. I was talking to the foreman, Stephen Trezza, and the lift is $50,000. We were going to split it with them because it's going to be used on our end for the engines, the trucks, and as well as the garbage trucks and everything else. Right now, the mechanic's crawling on his back underneath the trucks to do maintenance. This is going to lift them up. He's going to be able to access them and do the job the right way. Materials and supplies stayed the same, 20,000. Office supplies, 5,000. Uniforms, 5,000. Departmental inspections, 17,000. Protective gear went up a little bit. The gear now is just under $5,000 a set for a member. And within 10 years, you're mandated to get rid of it, even if it's still in the box. If somebody never used it before or anything, you have to replace it. It's out of our hands. So we did a little increase in that. 6,000 for telephone and communications, utilities, 15,000. Vehicle maintenance, 10,000, which it won't be as much because, like I said, the mechanic's going to be working on it, so it's not going to have to be as expensive. Building maintenance, 30,000. Maintenance contracts, 30. Postage, $250. Professional development, 10,000, which is training classes. We spent about $2,000 of that last year sending the mechanic to the classes, and that's anybody else that has that wants to. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. That anybody that wants to take training classes out of town, that includes, lodging and anything else to better the fire department, basically our training officer. Departmental training, 10,000. Medical services, 10,000. That's for our yearly mandated department physicals. And fire prevention, 5,000, which we go around to all the schools and, give out the hats and do all that every year. So basically, that's pretty much it. The total request you'll see is 262,750, and that's pretty much it. Like I said, it stayed the same as last year, give or take a couple thousand. Also, I believe you guys all got something from Jeff today that we put together about a new engine that's 21 years old right now. State mandate again. Our hands are tied. They're saying after 20 years, it needs to be replaced. It's one of our frontline apparatus. It takes over a year to make. We've been dealing with a sales rep who's been really good to us. We sold our past 2 Chiefs cars for over $25,000 between the 2 trucks, and we replaced a new car. We're getting them for about $55,000 now, all said and done. And this guy saw the engine that we have that, it needs a lot of work. I mean, we could push it a little, but the amount of work, it's a 1999. It's getting expensive to fix. The parts and everything are getting harder to find. He assessed it between 45 and 50,000 to resell it. A different department that doesn't have those state mandates that they could get another couple of years, dump, 30, 40,000 into it, and they get a brand new engine for 100,000. But, we're not in that boat. And also too, in that email is also something that we're gonna have to talk about this year is the infrastructure that we're dealing with headquarters and the firehouse on Ashford Avenue, Ogden Engine. Like I said, we really have to go in detail. We'll set something up, later in the year, but it's something that needs to be addressed now. We've started in 2017, as you could see, and nothing's really been done with it. They reinforced the floor downstairs because the rigs are heavier. This firehouse was built for horses back in the day, and obviously a truck now is heavier than horses, so they had to reinforce the floor and do that kind of stuff just to get us going, basically. But that'll be, like I said, later in the year, but it's something that needs to be addressed with the village board and everybody else that it's coming down to it. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, I guess we will look at that down the road because it looks like it's a big number there, Billy. So
yes, it is. I said, they're gonna laugh, but like I said, I mean, we have the report. Actually, the village hired that architect in 2017. He gave us a full printed out report, and like I said, I really do want to sit down and it's not a 5-minute thing, and we'll discuss everything in detail just so we could justify of what's going on.
Can I ask you a question, Chief?
Of course.
Because I saw the stuff that Jeff sent around today about the 2 firehouses and the state that they're in and whatnot, why you're requesting a new building or a new solution. But we have 2 firehouses right now. I mean, is the fire department open to being 1 fire department?
Yes, that's actually the best option for us is if we get a centrally located area or something within. The reason Ogden is there is because when that side of town was built, we took on the Parkway, we go to the Thruway, we go to Ardsley a lot for mutual aid, that whole section of town to try to limit our response time. Excuse me. However, if we're centrally located, we can get rid of that firehouse and this one to have a centrally located area. So everybody could be coming out of that. Right now, the problem that we're having is at the one on Ashford Avenue has a lot of older members that drive, but they aren't interior qualified. The ones down headquarters have the interior guys and no driver. So to put them in one house, there's some nights that the fire trucks, come out with a driver on each truck, no men. That's a big issue. You know what I mean? Like, the 3 chiefs go in and do what needs to get done. But, alleviating that problem, you would have a driver with 3 or 4 interior guys that can do the job and, make us efficient and function the way we're supposed to. So that is one of the better options, is to close that firehouse to join us together.
Have you located a space where we could do this?
We a few years ago, I was actually very good friends with the manager at Stop and Shop. I don't know how true it was. That lot where the clothing drop box is, the lot attached from the store, they said they didn't want that lot.
Oh, perfect.
So they were like, we don't want to pay taxes. We don't even want it. They go, whatever you got, because I said it to him. I was like, oh, this would be beautiful. And then that lot behind it, I believe, is Master School property. The one that the grassy area behind that with the wood fence that is on between Walgrove and Esterwood. I believe that area is Master School. I didn't want to do really anything without asking you, but I mean, I can inquire information about whose property it is. That is a large property, and it would suffice everything that we need, space-wise, height, width, everything, to maintain all our trucks, to have the proper, right now we have 5 women in the fire department. We don't even have separate bays for them to, to get dressed, to decon, to anything. They're getting dressed with the men on the truck room floor. I mean, thank God some of them don't mind, but, by law, we don't even have women's bathrooms. They're sharing bathrooms with the men and all that stuff. It's a whole legal issue at that point. Like I said, we've been lucky so far that nobody really pushed that, but it's only going to be a matter of time, I'm sure. But if it would be all right with you guys, I mean, I could definitely inquire before this meeting when we have after June or whenever you guys want to meet, and I could come up with some ideas and, you know, who owns what and what we could do with that.
Well, we're going to get a village planner. So I think maybe if we could have someone look at, holistically at maybe different spots and different areas in conjunction with you guys, maybe that's the way to go. So,
Yeah, I mean, we also, I'm sorry again.
oh, it's okay.
We also, we explored the idea that 99 Cedar lot and have something even, prefab down there. Problem with that is the response time as well. Try to get to the firehouse 5 o'clock in the afternoon and then go back to the Sawmill Parkway for a rollover. So by putting us further away from the centrally located area, we would have to keep Ogden. We're trying to get rid of all that to have us centrally located. So it's, response time is the same anywhere. I know there was talks years ago with Irvington Fire Department for Aldersgate Church.
Right.
That's a beautiful piece of property. But again, responding to there to go back to Northfield or, the Sawmill Parkway, anything like that, it's going to hinder our response time. And not to sound too dramatic, but every second kind of counts if there's a house fire. So that's why we're thinking centrally located is the best way to, then if you sell off those lots, the income alone should be pretty decent toward the new building.
Right. You mean the Ogden lot?
Yes, yeah, sell off the Ogden lot.
Right. And you don't think it could be expanded on the Ogden lot to accommodate? You don't think the Ogden lot could be expanded into a newer building that would house it?
It can't, because the only thing that we have is those 8 parking spots now. And we have a utility truck and an engine in there right now, and they're nose to nose that we have to actually walk sideways to get to our gear in there now. So even if you expanded it, you could maybe put 1 engine. We have 2 more engines and a truck. And we can't even downsize because of the size of the village. The population is what we're required to have.
Right.
So we can't even downsize a fleet for that reason. And also, I just want to throw this out there. Like I said, we can go into detail later, but the ambulance building I know is in really not good shape. Having it centrally located, that area is big enough that we could even house them. You could get rid of that property as well. They could house it, obviously it'll be run as a separate entity, but they could house it there. We have a bay just for the ambulance. They have their own office, their own, everything they need. But again, it's centrally located in the town, and that's another lot that the village could sell to, somebody that wants to buy that.
Yeah, correct. Okay, I think this is a bigger issue that we should talk about separately.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Chief, Mike Patino, thanks. If you want to send me the report and, I can get started on I can assist in any way.
Okay, absolutely.
With start to get organized and,
We
pre-planning for the planner.
Yeah, I believe some like the basic things went out this afternoon. We were a little behind on the pictures and all that. We have the full report from the architect. And if you want, we'll make copies. We'll send it to all of you, the administrator, everybody as well, just so we're all on the same page. And like I said, that's from 2017. So obviously you could tell that nothing really got accomplished from them. If anything, it just got worse. So we could definitely fill you in on every, aspect and then talk face to face when.
Yeah, I'll email Richard and we'll we can get a digital copy and we get on the phone or something later this week. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll get on that to you guys.
Yeah, this is a big project, so we don't want to rush into something. So we'll go at it. But thank you, and we'll meet and go over it again.
Yep. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so also in this, in the fire section, I include the ambulance corps. And see, I have a placeholder right now in the ambulance corps for potential, they've come in and asked for some help from the village. Richard and I had a conversation with Joe Rooney today, and they're one of their finance people. So that really is just a placeholder at this point. The money you see on 1625.410. We have a little bit of money in there for maintenance on the building, and the village pays the utilities over there.
Yeah, okay, we'll have to have I guess a more extensive talk about
Yes. Yes.
So Jeff, has the maintenance and utilities something that we've always had in our budget? So it looks like it was.
Okay, so when I started here a few years ago, it was the only active line, I should say, was the utilities. There was a maintenance line in there. It had been zero for a number of years. So a couple of years ago, I started putting, 10,000. It's not a lot, but if it can help them with some paint and whatever, and trying to get it a little bit cleaned up over there. That's what the thought was with that. Okay, DPW.
Steve, are you on? Steven?
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So we have made a couple of changes to our budget. The first one being Village Hall overtime, which is buildings overtime. And we went well above our overtime for the buildings this year because we did not budget for early voting and for COVID cleaning. So we had $3,000 in the budget and we upped it to $5,000 just to have money in there for unexpected incidents that we need Joe to come in and clean the buildings, or if we do early voting again for other things this year moving forward.
Jen, do we get reimbursed from FEMA for the COVID cleaning? And is there any reimbursement for the extra cost we took on for the early voting?
Yes, I know Elisa was working on with Fiona, I think, for the COVID supplies and COVID cleaning. And we also went over last year in our actually this current year in our material and supplies budget, because we didn't budget for all the things that we would have to buy for COVID. And those were all submitted to Elisa and Fiona.
What about the early voting? Is there anything that we get reimbursed from the government for that, from New York State or the federal government?
That I'm not sure about.
I don't believe that there is anything, no.
I mean, we did a great service for the community. So many people from all over Westchester came.
That's a good question.
Anyway.
You check with the county, right? Because the county picks the places, and so that's a good question. So maybe Richard could look into that.
Yep, I'm writing all this down, a bunch of notes. So yes, definitely.
The next thing that was changed was what Chief Osborne said a little earlier about the lift. It's a $50,000 lift, so we're going to split it between us and the fire department, $25,000 each. That was the only other change to central garage. The big change that we put in this budget was in street maintenance, the equipment line. Every year we get money from the New York State DOT, CHIPS money, to pave roads. It's normally around $150,000, and that doesn't get us to really pave much. We thought it was a good idea to put money in the budget as well as possibly in capital to have more money than just the $150,000 that we get reimbursed from, to have actual money in the general fund to add additional streets to pave. This year was a crazy year with complaints. Everybody was home. Everybody saw their street. They saw the condition of the streets. There was a lot of complaints about the condition of the roads.
And they saw Con Ed.
Yeah, and they saw Con Ed. And speaking of which, we are looking to put something in the code that says that the utilities have to pave curb to curb, regardless of if they only do 3 feet or, if they touch the road, they should have to pave curb to curb. And that Con Ed paving half of the road in half of the village didn't help the complaints.
Yeah.
So we're asking for $200,000 in the street maintenance equipment line to pave.
Can
And
that
then-
be brought down at all?
We also asked for it in the capital budget. We asked for $300,000 in capital, and we submitted our 5-year plan, and we asked for $300,000 every single year for 5 years. So if we don't get the 200,000 in the budget, we would still like to get something in capital. We would like 200,000. We can pave a lot with that. I think it would make a lot of residents very happy. I think, like I said, everybody was home and they could see the roads a lot more than they were if they were just, running
Well,
to
we're
work.
walking the neighborhoods too.
Exactly.
Jen,
we're walking
Jen and Steve, what does 200 get us like linear footage, or how many? I guess it depends on the width of the street.
It depends on how wide and how long the streets are.
But
Yeah.
in general, what are you thinking? Just give me a spectrum of how much what you get for that.
So just for example, I have it on my, it also depends on the, we do the joint bid every year with the surrounding municipalities, and it depends on what the price comes in as, but I do have what we want to use hold on, I'm sorry. It was, here it is.
Talking about what you have the 200,000 slated for, it's
Yeah, so we have,
for Summit Terrace, Temple Road, and Seneca.
yes, I was about to say, I can't find that one. I think I have the one that I have my notes on. What were you gonna say, Steve?
No, nothing.
The dead end of Seneca is a disaster, and we've been wanting to pave that for a while. It's from the last, what is that intersection, Stephen?
McClellan to the McClellan.
To the dead end.
Dead end. Yep.
It's completely ripped up. Summit Terrace, Summit Terrace is number 2 on our paving list, and Con Ed half paved it. So we want to half pave the other
The other
side
side.
of the street. And then what was that last one?
North Drive.
Temple.
Oh,
Temple.
Temple.
Drive.
Temple's been on our capital request for
Yeah,
years.
Temple's pretty bad.
Yeah, Temple, Walgrove, Temple, and Summit Terrace are really terrible streets. So we wanted to get as much as we can with the 200,000. Walgrove is too big of a project to even
Yes.
make a dent in it with that 200,000. Even if you guys gave us the extra 300,000 in capital, it's just too big of a project to take on. But it is eventually in our capital to be repaved, fix the drainage, do the curbs, and do it right.
Jen, will this also include the repair of this winter damage to all of the roads? We have some significant potholes in the village, especially here in Ashford. I know that you guys put some cones all the way at the top before you hit, you actually fixed it already, the bridge. So will that $200,000 include also the damage that the snow removal has caused this year?
Yes, the estimate with that, the estimate of those 3 streets, we will have money left over and we can get hot blacktop and do it ourselves instead of just constantly putting a Band-Aid on everything and filling it with cold patch. So yes, we can go around and fix all of the potholes in the village.
I mean, we know that the work with that Connect did has destroyed Ashford Avenue.
Yeah.
So this is something that then is going to fall on us to also repair?
From Con Ed?
Mm-hmm.
No, Con Ed is gonna come and they're gonna half pave Ashford Avenue.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna half pave everything. So half is gonna fall on us. So that's why there's nothing we could do about it now except pave the other half of these roads. But moving forward, we have to put something in the budget, I mean, in the code that says that if a utility opens a road, it doesn't matter if it's less than 50%, they have to pave curb to curb. It's only to protect us. And the last thing that was changed was shade trees. We increased tree removal by 15,000. It was 35,000 last year, and we can't keep up with the amount of trees in this village that are dying and are decaying. And we go over this budget every single year because we try not to go over it. And a windstorm comes and knocks everything down, and then we have to make up for it. So we're asking 15,000 to increase the tree removal budget. And then we're asking $9,000 in the tree planting budget, which is beautification. It was 21,000 last year, and we want to up it 9,000 to make it 30,000. We want to put, I think the village was very happy with what we did for the holidays this year. I think we got a lot of compliments about it, and we want to do more things for the holidays, more banners, more lights, put more lights over by the Artsy Island. We want to make this village the best that it could be. I think we did really good with the planters this year, and we want to do the island on Livingston. And over by Cedar and Main Street, we want to put where the bulletin board is. We want to do something really nice over there, and we want to make the village beautiful, the best it could be. So we asked to up that $9,000. Jeff, are we talking about capital this meeting?
If time allows at the end.
Okay.
Jen, is this portion of the beautification also include some of the things that we've been discussing with Ed hiring somebody to review and design something for the islands?
Yes.
Is that money including what that person's salary is going to be or cost?
Yes, it's we don't pay a salary. It's like a
fee for the
negotiated fee, yeah.
Okay.
And we did speak with her when we met. We met with her and Ed over at the Embassy Club, and we were talking about the plantings over there. And we did tell her we had some ideas of areas in the village that we really wanted to focus on. So yes, that is included.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Library.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, you're up.
All right. So hello, everyone. Boy, this has been an interesting year for the library. We haven't seen many of our patrons for very much of the past year, but we've still been working hard to fill holds. And I have to say, I'm really very happy with the amount of business we've continued to do, given that most of the library has been closed except for a couple months over the summer this past year. For our budget this year, I tried to keep things as flat as possible. Just to go through, Jeff, I don't know if did you discuss the personnel services at all?
Yes.
Okay, so you
They're
understand.
aware. Yeah, they're aware.
Okay. So I'm not going to spend any time on that. Library equipment, Jeff would like us to have a point of sale system for cash handling here. And so we've added some money there to add for that. All of the book budget has stayed flat. I'd like to thank the board for increasing our ebook budget. Just so you know, ebook circulation is up 55% this year. As you can imagine, that was a big push. And I think people have been really happy. I've really been pushing books that we've had. We can track who has items on hold, and those have gone. I track that really closely, and I'm trying to purchase as much as I can to fill holds for our people, for our village patrons who are looking for things. So that's gone really well. Library periodicals is down just a little bit because we really haven't had a lot of usage, and I think we can trim that budget a little bit. The main changes to this are on the next page. We're scrolling down. Office supplies is an increase mainly because it's just, I was really trying to look at what we have been spending and be realistic with it. I don't think we put in enough increase for sort of ink and paper increases over the past years, and that's why that budget line has increased some. The main thing that I did kind of some real adjustments to the lines here. And the reasoning I had was that many of the building related costs that we incurred were covered under one line item, which was 469 contractual services. And for me to track those numbers, it was getting really frustrating, especially when we have breakout areas. For example, library building repairs. That one, I've upped it because of repairs that we've had to do in the past. But that one was pretty close. Library equipment maintenance was budgeted for $500. And equipment maintenance is contracts for, I'm gonna pull my notes here. Contracts for the HVAC equipment, the elevator equipment, security and fire alarms, security cameras, the clock tower, and stuff like pest control. Actually, pest control, now that I think about it, should be under custodial supplies. But so I moved out of the contractual services and into equipment maintenance so that I could track it more easily. And I could also, when the invoices come in, they would be coded in a rational way to me. The same with building maintenance. That's basically janitorial services. Since we don't have a staff member on hand to do cleaning, I put the janitorial services under building maintenance. And then if you scroll down one more time, sorry, Jeff, don't get up yet. Thank you. So that's where I took it out of, was that contractual services, and what is left in there is some line items that hadn't been really budgeted for in the past, but I feel are important for our services. Website updates are basically the coder who does our updating on our website. Zoom, the cost of running Zooms for a year, a graphic suite that we use to do our advertising, flyers, social media, and our time clock. So that was that change. Library contingency is part of the personnel budget. And And we had some changes in employee benefits that just have to do with Gina coming on. We had originally budgeted for a family coverage for her, and she's a single person. So we had some savings there for that. And that's that part of the budget. Are there any questions? No questions?
Okay, let's go on to recreation.
Thank
Wait,
Thanks,
can I do,
Elizabeth.
wait, can I do capital?
We're going to do, if time permits, capital is going to be a discussion later.
Okay.
You on, Kendra? Asking you to unmute, Kendra.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, great.
Good evening, everybody.
Right, Jen.
So in my budget, I don't have too many changes or increases that I'm asking for. Oh, I keep thinking I can change that line there. Sorry, 1 second. One of my first lines that you'll see that increased was the overtime line for the department staff. In years past, we never had a budget in there, and this year we are requesting $15,000 for overtime.
Why is there, Kendra, why is there a need for overtime now going forward? Is something COVID related or a new permanent line item?
There was a little bit of a miscommunication as far as comp time and overtime. So the past year, we had been collecting comp time, but then we found out that it should have been paid as overtime. So you'll notice that there's a $12,000 amount in there for this year. So the staff had gotten paid for their overtime. So going forward, it's anticipating that we're going to be running those same programs, and so that our overtime expenses will be very similar to that $12,000 expense there. So our next line down below would be, Jeff, is it possible to scroll down?
Scroll
Sorry,
down.
I keep thinking
Yep.
I can do it.
Where do you need to go to?
Community center.
Further down?
Yep, that's
Okay.
good right there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
So our next line that I was asking for an increase for was A7185, which is the community center personnel line. And that's because we're anticipating adding additional programming down at the Embassy Center. So that's why we were looking for additional funding. A lot of my other lines did not change just because last year we didn't have camp. We did operate the pool, but it was on such a smaller scale that it was kind of hard to gauge exactly what our expenses will be. So that's why they remain the same. And that's really about it, unless anybody has any questions.
Are you expecting an increase in revenue this year?
We hope so, because we'll be running different programs. So we'll be doing some camp stuff. The pool will hopefully be fully operational, and we'll be selling memberships this year. So yes, we took a big hit last year.
Fortunately, though, a lot of that was offset by not having the programming,
Yeah.
like camp in particular. All right, are there any other questions for Kendra? Okay, great.
Perfect, thank you.
Let's move on to administrator and treasurer budget. And there's a few things to talk about in here. Richard, did you want to start off this discussion at all, or?
So I'm unmuted, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so really, this is sort of the administration and the treasurer all together, and also some other programming. Really, the only item that was adjusted in the administrators section was for a particular person for a discussion of salary and whatnot and personal achievement. And I would prefer to discuss that in executive session to discuss a particular person if we have time after the capital. That's what I'd like to do on that. The only other two items that will come up in a later discussion, I'll mention it now. We've had a number of meetings with the Human Relations Council, and we've also talked about a consortium with the other municipalities in order to provide some bias training. And so we'll be talking to you about that shortly, probably not this meeting, but the meeting following. So we'll be working on that, and we'll integrate that into the budget as well. And secondly, I've spoken, and I think there's been some discussion in the police review program that you're doing and the performance. And, we're going to recommend highly that the village go to the body cam program. So that'll be reflected at some point in this budget, either in capital or otherwise. And those were the two recommendations coming out of that. So other than that, I had no other change to the administrator's budget. So Jeff, yours.
All right. Treasurer's budget. And again, this covers this section covers a lot of different smaller areas, not just admin and treasurer. In general, a lot of this budget is the same as last year. There are a couple of exceptions. Let's see. 13 personal services full-time in the treasurer's line. This is a request we're making. It's not just a, excuse me. The thought is it wouldn't just be a treasurer's office position. We're asking for a potential position to take on some of the overlap that is falling on other people, or getting pushed down the line and not being treated as well as it probably should be. It's a $50,000 position. We feel that it's needed. Again, it's in my budget line, but I don't think that it's just a treasurer's position. It's just a placeholder.
So,
for right now.
so if I can just interject on that,
Yep.
because I've been talking to Jeff a lot, and I wrote you all an email, I think yesterday, just to catch you up on a bunch of stuff I've been looking at. So this, what you find here in the village is that you have a bunch of people, or a lot of people, doing a lot and wearing a lot of different hats. And so in order to, with the restricted budget that all the communities have now, it's very difficult to add people, especially at a higher level. So we know the impact adding an employee is on the budget. However, there's certain things that I wrote to you and we've discussed, which deal with personnel matters, et cetera. And so, we'd like to try to identify the person that can take that on, and it would fall on one person's lap, and that would be the area of responsibility. It would also be an opportunity to do some other finance issues, to sort of look over the IT program that's going on in the council chambers, basically to be sort of a catch-all to some of these other items that are sort of being spread around, but primarily to deal with HR, human relations, and also some of the permitting, help Jeff out in the different departments where the permitting has been spread out between the finance office and the police. So try to get some of these tasks focused and identified in one person. And it would be a finance issue because there is some monies that are at stake. And so this is basically the proposal.
Okay, so then when this budget was put together, there was talk of maybe an HR or IMA. So you see the professional consultants did go up $75,000 for that. We've talked, or Richard's talked more so than I have, to the surrounding communities. A lot of them aren't at this point interested in an HR position. So we're thinking that is probably something that can actually come out of this budget at this point, or, if it needed to be moved elsewhere. Beyond that, really, there's not a lot that's changed. I bumped up judgments and claims to 300,000 for any future claims against the village. Let's see, beyond that, really, it's pretty flat otherwise. Those are the big areas that had the changes to them. Any questions? Okay. Let's, are we interested in taking some time to look at the capital departmental requests?
Yeah.
Need to do the court or not?
Court. Yeah. Court is very flat from last year. It's almost unchanged, as a matter of fact. I talked with Judge Koenigsberg earlier today. I forgot to invite him to this. He said he's available if there's any questions, but really it's basically unchanged at this point.
No, I've spoken to him also this morning, and I know that we had a proposal for our audiovisual for the Board of Trustees room, and he was expressing interest in maybe we could expand that to get some type of upgrade for the courtroom, because I don't know when or if even they're going to be able to go back in to the extent that they are prior to this. So maybe if we can get ready for doing virtual hearings on this traffic, maybe we can be upgrading our equipment so that we can be in a good position to segue into that on a regular basis. And having said that, I'm not also sure if our equipment is upgraded enough to even handle that. So maybe we could take a look at that, expanding that proposal that we have for the Board of Trustees into the courtroom as well.
Good idea.
Okay, just as a comment with that, there's PEG grant money that's going to pay for the court for the boardroom. It would have to come from different source of funds, but yeah, we can certainly look into maybe having them take a look at the courtroom and give us an idea of costs over there.
Yeah, just an idea, just so we know.
Yep, absolutely. All right, are there any questions? Okay. Are we gonna take a look at the capital requests?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me change what I'm going to pull up here. Yeah, give me 1 second.
That's the email with the picture of the village waterfront park, I think.
Correct. Yep. Share the screen.
For anyone who wants to call it up themselves, I think it's part of the first PDF that Jeff sent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first email that was sent, correct. All right, so we can talk about the first request summary we have here. Richard and I have had a conversation with it's Honeywell about a evaluation of energy performance within the village, and it's potential. There's a potential to finance and get replacement of things like the roof, HVAC, maybe windows, doors, etc., and actually use the cost savings to pay the debt for the project. So that's what those first couple of items are. There's a couple of options for the evaluation. One's free, one costs. And we still have to speak to the second option. The parking lot over behind Village Hall and over on Oak Street is getting rough. It's just a projection of the cost to resurface those two areas, $150,000. Richard, do you have anything to add about the energy performance at all, or?
Yeah, no, that was, so the energy performance could include such things as the roof and the HVAC. And what they're going to do is they're going to balance the projects that give you the best energy savings with some that don't give as much. For example, people say that the windows in the back of the building should be replaced. Windows have a very poor payback on the energy savings as opposed to a conversion from oil to gas, but for example, or the LED. But you've already done a lot of that work. So the Honeywell comes in and does the evaluation for nothing. I'm still going to talk to NYPA, and theirs is based on square footage. That's where the 15,000 comes in, but that's just a guesstimate because we haven't even gotten that far yet. But and then in the end, they'll, if it's a Honeywell or some other vendor, an energy performance contractor under state law, they have the ability to finance it themselves. And so it doesn't affect your debt service, your negative impact on your liabilities. So, but we're investigating that, and we're going to be bringing them back to, once they do a preliminary, back to the trustees for you to review.
I just want to make a comment on the paving. I spoke to Jeff about this earlier. Since we're going to be replacing the pedestrian bridge behind Village Hall, that should probably be coordinated in some way so that we don't do the paving and then we bring in equipment that might actually tear it up when they're putting in the pedestrian bridge, unless that can be averted, unless, wear and tear on the parking lot would be, would not be that great with the pedestrian bridge being put in. But, if we're going to be
makes
putting up
sense.
a pedestrian bridge, that's going to be affecting some of that parking lot.
And likewise, we haven't talked about it yet, but when we get to the renovation or work on the fire hall downstairs, the leakage, if it's being caused by the bridge, that needs to be part of whatever replacement happens, so that we don't cause or worsen that problem.
Which
let's just get this holistically, we don't do one, and blow the other.
Which, by the way, that'll be something that a Honeywell or another entity, when they do the energy review, they'll be looking at all the square footage of the buildings. And so I haven't even been down there, but when they go downstairs to look at how the energy consumption is there, they'll also look at the physical condition and identify areas for you all for future projects or whatever, present projects.
Any other any questions? Any questions relating to this area? Nope. Okay, move on. DPW, and I don't know if they're still on here or not. Steve is. Can we bring Steve back into be able to talk?
I promoted him to.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All righty. Here's our 5-year budget. Our capital, I'm sorry. We're looking for $300,000 in road surfacing for the next 5 years, as you can see. And we had to start replacing some trucks. As you can see, the garbage truck there, right now it's just sitting in the backyard, just collecting yard waste, 'cause that's all it can do. It has holes in the body. And that truck is 17 years old, and the estimated cost is probably around $300,000. And then the sweeper that goes out 7 days a week, and that's really the workforce. It just keeps the village clean. That if it breaks down, it's out for a couple weeks at a time because it's old and the parts are getting hard to find. And there's a belt on it that it's almost ready to go. So if that goes, it's going to be about $30,000 to fix. As you can see, that's about $25,000. And then we have to do some kind of study on the High Street Bridge because that's starting to rot away. And that's in our 5-year plan, maybe in 24 or 25, I can't see it. And that's going to be like $6 million to fix. Basically, it's just replacing trucks and we'll upgrade to the Memorial Park bathrooms because they're not ADA compliant. And as you can see, 2022, we have the pedestrian bridge at Village Hall. It's about $100,000.
And as far as the bridge goes, I have transferred a couple of years ago. You approved moving $150,000 into the capital fund, so that project is funded at this point.
Okay. And really the most important one, it could go this year or next year, would be the sewer truck. We don't want people, if that sewer truck breaks down, we're gonna have a lot of screaming residents with poop floating in their basements. And that truck is, I mean, Richard saw it today. That truck went out twice today, just alone.
Well, that's actually, you're anticipating my question, perhaps. I'm certainly pleased that I've never had to have it. But how often is this thing dispatched?
Well, let's put it this way, from January till now, it's probably been out 10 times already. It goes out more than you think.
Can funds from can some of the sewer funds be used for that or not?
Jeff would have to answer that
And
question.
some of the sewer funds, yes, it could be.
But I guess can
we share this with other communities? Is that a possibility? If it's not used all the time, can you go to share it with Audsley or Irvington? Is that something?
I mean, you could, but if they're using it and we have a sewer break or a sewer backup and we have to wait 2 hours to get the truck back, that's the only downfall with sharing a truck like that.
So as far as you know, do they each have their own sewer truck?
Irvington does not. Ardsley, I don't believe they do. They use the town of Greenberg, and Hastings has like a one that you pull in the back of the truck. We've been to all those towns a couple of times to help them out with that truck. Yeah, Mayor, these are all good questions. And ironically, I was up there today, got a tour of the facility, which is the village did a really good job with that. And yeah, we looked at these trucks and these are all the same questions. Is there any IMA opportunity for sharing? Yeah, I mean, we can all look at all these things, but these same points were made this afternoon. So it's quite instructive, actually.
Okay.
But Jeff, the sewer truck you put into the next year and in the current
No,
year.
this is Stevens.
I mean, yeah, we did it, but
I'm
we
sorry,
can.
Steve, I beg your pardon. I mixed that up. Steve,
We can swap it with, I'd rather see the sewer truck than the garbage truck, to be
because
honest.
that's what we spoke about this afternoon. I said you got to prioritize, and I see it in a subsequent year. So, can't get everything right, but you have to prioritize.
Right.
If you had to rank the broom sweeper in that, how
The
would you?
broom sweeper is a high priority also because that's out every day sweeping the streets.
So we run that 7 days.
7 days a week.
I don't think I've ever seen it on the,
He does the main, Ashford Avenue, Broadway, waterfront parking lot, and Main and Cedar on the weekends.
I guess it's not maybe visible, other than I used to see him in the morning before, 6:30 in the morning train station.
Yeah, but he's out there 7 days a week. That's why the streets look that clean. And that truck's getting old and it's getting hard to get parts for it also.
But again, if we were to make you force rank, that versus the sewer truck, which would you take? I mean, if you could get,
sewer truck is high priority. Then I would say the sweeper and then the garbage truck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any more questions? Okay. All right, here's some pictures of.
That's the sewer truck now.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look in that bad a shape, but it's in pretty bad shape. And that's the garbage truck that's rotting away.
Steve, how many of those do we have?
We have 4. 3 go out every day. This one sits in the yard for yard waste. But when a truck breaks down, we have to borrow one from Ardsley. That's the conveyor belt of the sweeper.
How many of those do we have?
1.
I don't know. I thought I have seen a nicer one. Is that a loaner?
You may have seen one that we demoed if it was a nicer one. And these are just the Seneca Street, Parkway Drive that we want to pave. North Drive. Priory, Temple, Myrtle. One of our oldest plow trucks. That's the High Street Bridge, I believe.
Yeah, it's the bridge.
That bridge looks awfully dangerous to me. Have we had that examined lately? I mean, are we okay with that or what?
I think it was in Metro North, I think, does it like inspects it every other year, I believe.
Okay.
Park, High Street.
High Street
Steve,
Park.
I also noticed that at High Street, part of the wall is falling apart. So that the upper part of this park, there's a wall on, I guess that's, is that Palisade?
Yes, that was hit. That was hit by.
Palisade, yeah, I know the one you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That was hit by a drunk driver.
I noticed that there's a line item for a bridge engineering study for the bridge. I think that study is important, and I think you can see it maybe in the left image here that you have up just over to the left. There's some, that wall is falling apart. I wonder if we could combine those two and have them looked at by the same person.
We can try it. We can ask.
And then, I realize that some of those streets look, sort of rough, but the equipment has an impact on the entire village. And, so a section of Seneca Street might affect 6 or 8 neighbors, whereas a failed street sweeper affects the whole village. So, you know, my inclination would be to prioritize the equipment.
Now, I do have a question about the staircase, because you were talking in High Street Park, because there have been again, we don't know what we're doing with High Street totally, but there have been designs in the past where there was like a switchback going through there. So, I mean, should we think about not doing anything to the stairs until we find out what the final design is, or do we have the design that we still need the stairs?
I would wait for the final design because I think the CAB is working on something.
Yeah, I know they had been, yeah.
Yeah, I believe they're working on with Ed on something.
Yeah.
This is the ambulance corps building. And that's the,
Jeff, you said we have money for this already? This is.
Yes, yeah, it's been sitting there for a little while. The problem is it abuts the aqueduct.
Yeah.
So there's there's issues getting the state to, sounds like, to let the work happen.
Is there some way we can put them on notice? Because that looks fairly dangerous. And if they're keeping us from doing a safety repair, then can we put them on notice or not? Or our attorneys in the room?
We could let Richard.
So you know what, let's study this. We'll talk about it a little more. I want to see the pictures and talk to Steve about it.
Okay.
Go out there, actually.
Yep.
And Stephen, this is part of the reason that the basement is leaking, right? Because of it rests inside the wall.
Yep. It rests
I-
on the building. It's not like freestanding.
And I think the plan would be to
the
have some
freestanding.
Stand it, yeah, that would make sense.
And then
Terrible
anything,
design. It
anything
could be
built
done
to
prepared
roof.
in a much simpler way.
Yeah.
And anything new should have a roof on it. This is the bathrooms at Memorial Park. They're very tight.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me a headache, Steve.
Sorry.
I wonder why.
You closed with that pink bathroom. That was disturbing.
Righty, capital for the fire department. Is anyone from fire department still here or no? I think we covered this pretty.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I don't know if Elizabeth is still here or is she gone?
I'm sorry, guys. I have to sign off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank, Mike.
I just promoted Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you're on.
There. Sorry about that. I feel like I should have gone around with my camera so I could show you the peeling paint and everything, but it still doesn't compare to the trucks, I have to say. I can't compete with trucks. The one thing I will say is that as part of the library strategic plan, we were really thinking about our patrons and ways that we can, improve services. And the one thing that we don't have that would really be helpful is an automatic door assist. What is on there is I actually spoke to Glass Solutions, which was recommended by a bunch of other libraries, and Salerno Electric. There is not power to that area, so we would have to have an electrician add power to it. But to have an electric assist door not only for disabled people, but also for parents with young children and strollers. It would just be a really helpful thing for us. Carpeting hasn't been touched since it was installed in 2003, I believe. And there are areas, particularly in the children's room, that are really, really gross. So those are our main issues. Some of the other things we were able to get done with the Friends helping us, but I really would like the exterior painting, the trim painting needs to be looked at here.
Can that be done internally? Like, can our DPW do something like that or not? Or do we have to go out for that?
I'd have to ask Jen and Stephen. I can ask them if they have someone that could do that. Yeah, I haven't explored that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's move
Oh, I
on.
had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, are you asking like if this expected to come out of like the library budget's fund balance or our capital budget or something else?
I guess it would be up to Jeff to sort of help me figure that out. I know that in the past, I've been told there is no capital budget for the library. But I believe that these are things that really fall under capital and not operations. And so, we've been drawing down our fund balance over the past couple of years. I know that Jeff shared with me some trust. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right thing, Jeff.
Yeah, there was some money left years ago that can be used to do these improvements.
So that's sort of where I was thinking was the leftover trust funding.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
The other thing, looking at this HVAC computer controls, that energy performance, they could probably take a look at that as well. The gentleman we spoke to did talk about computer controls as possible.
That is thank you, because I'm so stuck on automatic doors, because that is what the library board felt was priority. But that HVAC computer controls, it operates on Internet Explorer is the interface, and it's completely coded to that. So you might know this, that Internet Explorer is not being serviced in this way. I'm sorry?
That's an echo, I think.
Yeah, okay. But if it fails completely. And it's probably, it was designed in 2003 when the original HVAC was put in. And so I'm concerned that it really does need to be updated. And that was the price I got from the original designer, what it would cost to upgrade it to an interface that'll work on current day browsers.
Okay, any other questions? Great, thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, and I think we talked pretty extensively with Rick as well. I think the radio project that he's got on here is similar to what the fire department was talking about with the county changing the types of radios they need. Otherwise, it looks like it's just trying to rotate out old equipment instead of buying it all at once, just kind of doing a couple a year. Recreation. I don't know. Is Kendra still on or is she?
Yes.
Okay.
I promoted her to panelist.
Kendra, do you want to, are you on?
I am, yes.
You want to talk about this?
Sure. So the 21-22 capital project request. So that is all for Gould Park. So one would be for a snack shack, snack bar in the pool area, as well as some additional sun shelters there. My second request would be to replace and redo the basketball court at Gould. One side of it has kind of sank over the years, and it hasn't been done in a number of years. The other part of that would be to upgrade the lights and make them LED. And then the third item on there, the Gould Park, the staircase going down in there, and then to the drainage issues that are there. The one thing that I do not have on there would be the addition of a bathroom if at some point we decided that we wanted to do that. For 22-23, we would love to add the Memorial Park spray pad where the old baby pool was, and also rehab the Memorial Park building. In the year 23-24, the Memorial Park stairway that leads behind the building down to the baseball field, some of those stones are starting to come loose. It would be great to redo that and really address it and fix the lighting on it, so that way it connects the baseball field to potentially the spray pad and the playground. And also a new senior bus / recreation bus. This would be something that would be 14 passengers that you would not require a CDL driver for. And we could use it for any recreation programs as well as senior programs. And I'm also thinking at some point, like, I guess, an additional commuter bus.
Yeah.
And the year 24-25 is where we dream big and we talk about doing the Gould Park, the lower building down there. So we would really love to pretty much blow that building up and make it a big community center, a place where we can hold day camp, kind of have like a gym-like facility inside. We could do basketball, rent it out to soccer teams, do bathrooms in there, and kind of make it a really big facility. And also the Gould Park bathhouse at that point, when we did the pool renovations, we did not do any, well, we updated the bathhouse, but we didn't redo the bathhouse. And in the next few years, it will definitely need a rehab. So the idea would be to actually kind of connect it to that lower park building. And then in the year 25-26 would be the time that we would look to replace the playground equipment down at Waterfront Park. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Not to harp on it, but the LED lights could be part of the energy performance. Any questions?
didn't mean
it's hopefully by the time, by your last year, your 5 year, you'll have made so much money on the pool, be able to pay for all that.
I didn't realize I was going to make everybody so quiet. Or maybe our rec funds will be able to cover it all by then.
Yeah, Kendra, I just wanted to mention that good point by Jeff, that they will do the energy review of the lights and all the lights and the square footage of your building. And also, we spoke previously, we might have a good source for the senior bus. So we could speak more of that. I think I gave you the contact, but we'll talk about that a little more.
Good. All right, I think that is the presentation for tonight. Are there any questions or concerns?
A lot of concerns.
I was gonna say, yeah, a few, dollar signs concerns.
Can you explain the process going forward now, Jeff? Like after this workshop, what's the next steps in the budget process?
Yeah, so over the next week or two, we're in the second. Yeah, the next week and a half, changes to these requests can be made and discussed. I need to submit this to Liz by the 20th. So I need some time to be able to work on the message and everything that goes with the tentative budget. So yeah, so over the next, 18 days, we can take some look at these requests and make any changes. And I'm assuming there's probably going to be some changes to it.
All right, great job as usual. So congratulations, Jeff, and to all the people, the department heads. So thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
Okay.
And just the other, Richard, if you wanted, I see there's no attendees in here. If you wanted to.
Okay, so.
Oh, but we're still live on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we should, if we're going to go into executive session, we would want to go to, to do that for the council, yourself and myself.
So I need to set up a new Zoom and email you all, and I can do that.
Oh, you do? Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just give me a couple of minutes. I don't know if you want to take a break and we
I
can
mean,
end
otherwise
this.
otherwise I can write you all an email about some of it if you like, whatever's best. I'm happy to talk tonight or whatever you think.
Well,
Might be worth
let's do
having.
it tonight, I guess, if we could do a
Yeah,
5-minute.
5-minute conversation, I think would be worth.
Okay.
Okay.
So just, I'm ending the meeting. I'm signing off and you'll get an email for a meeting instead of a webinar from me in a moment.